Okay, Shri Mataji. Good morning, and another sunny morning in England. Thank you for joining us. Felicity from Gloucestershire and Shankar Ji from Garden of England, and to do the two of our interview with both of you. So Felicity, if you want to ask the questions to Shankar Ji.
No, I think we'll just jump in and continue where we left off, because you didn't quite get a chance to finish where we left. You were, I think it was in Cabella, having got there with your renovated vehicle, traveling across Europe from England to Cabella. And so you just take it from there. Take us into it again.
Okay.
Wait, and I'll say, I've had a preview of what's to come today, and I've heard there's dreams, there's kind of little miracles, and a lot of mother's content. So we're looking forward to this.
Okay. Well, hi everyone. Jai Shri Mataji. Thank you for the opportunity, for letting me finish off the Bedford TK journey, and as I started to get into the yoga more and the UK collective, and dip my feet into the international European collective. And then I'll just take you on to a few dreams I had, a few little sort of visions, which you might find quite fascinating or even humorous. And then ultimately to a dream I had about Sushmita before we ever met, and our marriage, and the significance of marriage in society, my limited understanding of the divine's intentions for human beings to marry, and the importance of marriage to hold societies together. So in short, what it was, I was helping out John Watkinson G at Cabella for a couple of months.
So this is, you're in Cabella,
Yeah,
at the castle that Shri Mataji bought, that has become the World International Center.
yeah.
And at the time, so what year is this that you were there?
It'll be 1993 now. Got my
So
in 92. Yeah.
At that point, the outside of the castle isn't done. You're just doing renovations, and it was a complete it was a derelict, almost a derelict. And so you are working inside with the other yogis, the golden builders, to renovate the castle.
Yeah.
And was Shri Mataji living there or staying there at this time?
She came to stay for, I think it's what they called the Puja season in Cabella.
In the summer.
In the early 90s, in the summer, yeah. And the Puja pendle was an old circus marquee pendle, and it was up on the hillside.
Next to the castle, I remember. Yeah, next to the castle.
So what it was, the outside of the castle was still to be properly worked on, and internally things were progressing as far as I remember, and certainly I was just helping John out with a bit of painting and decorating, and then the Puja season started. I mean, I didn't know anything about Puja as such, or the Puja season. Of course, I got a glimpse of worshipping the divine through my Indian seeking experience, but I'd not.
You don't know the chakras and the deities.
Yeah, I'm limited subtle system.
You understood the concepts. You'd been exposed and seen the concepts. And at this point, how long had you since you got your realization?
The year before, September, year before, 1992.
Okay.
So we're in the kind of late spring, in the spring of 93, I think. Yeah.
So 6 months, really. Six months.
Yeah.
Wow.
And because I had savings, of course, from my mum and dad's late estate, but I'd kind of locked them away in some kind of funds. A friend of mine dealt with that for me. But when it came to actual cash in my pocket, Italian lira in my pocket, I didn't have a lot. There was an Italian yogini was very kindly taking my handicrafts into Milan and selling them, I presume, in a lunch break at her workplace. And then every so often she'd come back and give me the proceedings. I'd rush off and buy myself some pasta and honey because my truck was parked down by the river. And then because I'd been helping out at the castle as much as I could in my capacity, assisting John there, Shri would, allow us to eat up there. The yogis, essentially, I suppose the Italian yogis would do the breakfast and the lunch and the dinner, and we'd all sit outside or inside down on the ground floor and have a bit of
Where
food.
were the others? So the other yogis were sleeping in the castle?
There were yogis sleeping, and I think they call it the mezzanine. It's the days of Finbar and Elizabeth, John and Padmini, Giorgio, the tennis coach, George and Alison, yes, and Alberto and his dear Indian wife. Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And Victor and Purna, of course. And I was the
Early days. And
yeah,
so
well, I was the
Mataji would come probably with Sir CP and stay in the castle, and she would be directing the renovations and as they were going on. And when you say you were helping John, was John doing plastering or what was he doing?
John was doing some ornate plaster work and a bit of painting. Might have been doing some wallpapering. I'm not sure at that time. Probably was just plastering. Everyone come later. Chris Marlowe was there with his joinery skills. I think he was making and fitting a staircase, which I think he refers to in his Golden Memories interview. So it was just sort of high activity.
It makes me feel that, when we heard the memories of the Golden Builders in Brompton Square, that was like a dress rehearsal. That was like a practice for this huge castle because, there was John doing all the plastering in Brompton Square. And now he's got these huge rooms with, incredible ceilings, and the same for Chris. And you were right there in the beginning of it all.
Well, I turned up off the side of the road, and they kind of
took you in.
I don't know what they thought of me, but typical,
Dargah was very welcoming.
And not knowing what to do in life. They were very patient. They helped me out, advised me, and looked after me. I think I think for the Italians and maybe the European yogis there, it was all this sort of oddity, that this English guy had turned up in this old truck, and here he was, and they took me in and looked after me big time. What it was, so the pujas had started. Now I'm pretty sure it was the Sri Adi Shakti puja that came first for me, and I remember people saying, "Oh, well, you need puja dakshina, Shankar. You need a bit of money to," and because self-realization's free. You can't pay for self-realization. Spirituality is free, full stop. But you've got to be practical. You've got to buy the food for the yogis, the visitors. You've got to pay for the hire of the pendle, etc., etc. So, you had to be practical. And as I suppose a devotee of Shri Mataji and just starting in the yoga, I was expected to contribute what I had.
Yeah.
I didn't have anything. So I was really quite distressed. I remember one evening, I think the yogis had cooked a sort of pizza, and we're having pizza, and it was almost on the eve of the Shri Shakti Puja that would be held in the pendle there on the side of the hillside. And people were telling me about this reduction. I'm going, I haven't got any money. And then Robert Hunter came out from what I call the front of the castle. It's actually the bit that overlooks the valley, onto this sort of arched bridge affair straight outside the entrance. And he said, Shri Mataji said that anyone that's helped out on the castle, they can go, they don't have to pay the dakshina. And I just looked up at the balcony of Shri Mataji's room. She was there, of course. And I just thanked her, you know, from the bottom of my heart. And lo and behold, I could attend the Shirdi Puja, which was vibrationally full on. And I didn't really know who the Adi Shakti was. You know, I hadn't quite got there. The penny was dropping very rapidly. In fact, the penny did drop in Plymouth when I looked at a video of Mother, but that's a different thing. Well, I'll tell you now. Basically, back in Margaret's place with the old VHF cassette recorder in a little meditation room, she puts on a Sri Ganesha Puja talk for me, and I'm sitting there, and Mother's talking about Sri Ganesha, and then she's talking about Christ, and just wanted to pop in here that what anyone viewing who's just got their self-realization, or they've chanced, but there's no such thing as chance, and by coincidence they've come across all this on YouTube, Golden Memories. I just wanted to convey that the divine, that there is only one God, there is only one supreme being, but he has many manifestations, including his love and his power, which is Shri Adi Shakti, which is his feminine aspect, which is the supreme goddess. Yeah. And even though we might be a Christian or a Muslim or a Hindu or a Jew or a Farsi, one has to sort of come round or be open to the idea that these religions that were built and formed out of the incarnations of the time, whether it's Zoroaster for the Farsis, or Buddhists, you know, Buddha for the Buddhists, you know, or Abraham and Moses for the Jews, you know, that's the human beings adding to it all. And later,
the human beings created the religions out of the incarnations of the divine.
And God and organize God. And of course, how can an ant perceive the mountain? You know, it's not possible. So you got to be open-minded. And the thing about the yoga is when your Kundalini comes up, that reflection of the love of Jehovah, Allah, Shiva, the Supreme Being, God Almighty, the Father, that's his love emanating from you. The Kundalini is the reflection of the Adi Shakti, which is love and the feminine force. And you've got to get your sympathetic nervous system enlightened and sensitive to this, to the divine, and then your conditionings of your place, your birth, your name, your religion, they just later just sort of gently drop away, and then it leaves you with an elated, uplifted state of being the spirit, which is the reflection of God in your heart, in every human being. That's really important. So when I talk about Sri Hanumana later and things and dreams of Shri Mataji, I don't want people to just lock into Hinduism or lock into Christianity. Try not to do that. Try and be open-minded, as I was when I came into when I discovered Sahaja Yoga, and as all the seekers of truth do.
Is there an opportunity to experience the yoga you want to
just a little plug, and I've realised that the text reads backwards. But if you see this poster in your high street or in your community centre, your library,
it's not backwards. It's not backwards. I can see it.
I mean, this is all the modern age now, where it's all online. Before, when I got my realization that there's no such thing as online or computers as such. So it's a meditation. It's free. It's online. It's from the 8th to the 28th of March this year. It's just about to kick off tomorrow.
If you search 21 days, 2025, Sahaj, it will come up on YouTube. And I think they'll post the Zoom link too. So it's for every evening at 7 o'clock UK time, 8 o'clock Europe time. Yeah, it's great. We can read it. We can see it clearly.
Fabulous. Jai Shri Mataji again.
Okay, good. I feel a bit bad because I haven't managed to put any posters up, but we've done a plug there.
That's okay. Okay, continue. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
the story.
First Puja there, and it's fantastic. I mean, I'm clearing out a bit my subtle systems, a bit of negativity coming out here and there. And then the next puja is the Guru Puja. Now, that really appealed to me. I was still at Cabella. I didn't have to pay my dakshina because I was still helping out, and it was the Shri Guru Puja. I attended the puja. It was very powerful because I'd been seeking, because I'd been sort of in front of false gurus, whether it was the Babbas in India, God bless them. My void, my stomach, my lower abdomen was churning with what we call negativity. And it was a big workout in that during the puja, you receive a lot of love and vibrations from the divine, and it clears out whatever negativity you have in your subtle system. It's a gradual process, but after that puja, it was really strong in me. It was so strong that I wanted to run away. The negativity in me wanted to run away. I wanted to run out of the pendle at the end of it and get the hell out of there.
But you were so new. You were so new. It was a real, you know, very intense experience all at once.
Yeah. Luckily, I didn't. There was something in me again. It was the voice of the spirit, the inner voice that Mahatma Gandhi refers to, and other, Mahatmas through the course of human evolution. He said, "Don't do it, Shankar. Just stand your ground." So I stood on the periphery of the pendle, inside the pendle, and I'm standing there, and the puja's come to an end, and the yogis are singing devotional songs, bhajans, possibly qawwalis, to Shri Mataji. And then I found myself standing next to an American yogi, and we got talking, and I told him my little history in my truck, and he went, "Gee, wow. After the puja, I really want to go and check out Europe, see Europe, and do a bit of traveling in Europe, Sahaja yoga, and I could help you get your truck back to your farm in France. And by the way, I'm a Greyhound bus driver." I thought, wow, that's just what I needed. A co-pilot driver who could drive for long hours at a steady speed and get my truck back to the Brittany at the farm, where I had the intention of going back to England and helping out at Shri Mataji's London residence, which was in Ealing, which I heard about from Chris and John, etc. So we were off. The puja, that puja had ended. I think in the next couple of days, he came down to the truck, and we started off, taking it in turns to drive. Now, at some point, as we'd got past the Alps, the truck started playing up, and what had happened was I couldn't afford to stall it. If I stalled it, I couldn't restart it with the ignition key, and so that meant I either had to bump start it down a hill or get someone to tow me and bump start it. I mean, when you've got a 5.5 ton little truck, you don't want to be breaking down in the middle of nowhere. I had no AARAC cover. I didn't even have insurance for driving on Europe. So it was a bit touch and go. What happened was, I did stall it and I couldn't restart it. We managed to bump it down a hillside. But then when each driver was getting tired, the other one took over. But you've got to keep pressure on the accelerator to keep the revs up. You didn't want the engine to go into a very slow idle and then stall. So we'd pull into a gas station in France. I needed, more diesel, and then he would take over on the driver's seat. So he'd slide over and I'd slide out the cab, keep a hand down on the accelerator pedal, keeping it ticking over. Because when you're in a fuel station, you can't keep the engine on. But I didn't care, I had to keep the engine going. Luckily, the fuel in the kiosk there, the attendant didn't pull me up on it. So we had a few occasions touch and go at petrol stations refueling. And I had money, so I did a bit of money then, so I didn't have to worry about stopping off in towns and cities and selling my handicrafts, what I had left to get fuel. I had a bit of fuel money. So, but basically, from the Italian Franco border to we got to Paris, we just drove non-stop. 40 mile an hour, swapping driving when we drivers over when we could without stalling it. Anyway, we got to, and my knowledge isn't fantastic at the moment. We got to Fontainebleau, which I think is a forest to the south of Paris, and it was evening time, and both of us were absolutely knackered. We had to pull over for the night. There's no way we could have driven through on into Paris in the night. I mean, there's no power steering this truck. It was a screw mechanism steering device. There was no power steering. It was really heavy on the forearms, and we weren't going very fast. And so we decided to sort of at least pull over. So we pulled over in one of these lovely French continental picnic areas by the side of the high road, and he stalled it, and the engine cut out. And I thought, oh no, we're all right, but it's too late to carry on. We'll just sleep for the night. And he stalled it, and I'm going, oh no way, man, you let it stall. And he goes, no way, man, this truck's possessed, man. And I'm going, no, I saw Shri Ganesh in it. It can't be possessed, Anyway, we had this little argument, and I got all flustered. I grabbed my sleeping bag, a DOS bag. And I just thought, by this, I'm going to sleep outside. Let him have the truck to sleep in. I'm sleeping outside. So I got in my sleeping bag by the side of the truck. The sun had gone down. It was getting dark. Started raining. So I crawled under the truck and I burnt a blooming hole in my sleeping bag. A really nice sleeping bag. So I was really annoyed. I burnt a hole in it because it was all polyester, big hole in it. And I was a bit grumpy. Anyway, I got off to sleep underneath the truck. And in the morning, we couldn't get the blooming thing started. So we started hitching and we got picked up. I hope I've got this right. If I haven't, please forgive me. But we got picked up by Sahajogis. I couldn't believe it. French Sahajogis picked us up on the side of the road. Jai Shri Mataji, where are you going? I'm going, well, I'm going into Paris because I understand there's a public program Shri Mataji's giving in Paris. And then there's going to be a Shri Mahakali Puja in Paris. And then I'm going on to Brittany to leave my truck at my farm. And then I'm going back to home to the UK. And he said, oh, no problem, get in. And they took us to the ashram in Paris. I couldn't believe it that they found us. It wasn't a coincidence. Mother had engineered the whole thing. And as we were coming
Well, that's a miracle. That's a miracle story. That, what are the odds? You're beside the road and suddenly yogis stop at that moment.
Yeah, I left it there in the picnic area and we went on, and I'm trying to get it right, but I might have got it wrong. But and as we're coming into Paris, we're getting into the suburbs, and I'd learned the three great mantras then. I'd learned the Maha mantras, yeah? And I didn't know when it was the right time to say them or recite them. But as we were coming in, I was sitting in the back of the car and I'm seeing Paris around me, and I'm feeling, cool, blimey, this is a bit rough. And I start saying the three great mantras like to myself, but out loud a bit. And of course, all the yogis in the car had to say it as well because I was taking them. And
they had to join in. Yes,
yeah,
of course.
join in. And it wasn't until a bit later they politely said, "Look, Shankar, you're not really meant to take them all the time." And I went, "Oh, sorry, I didn't know that." But anyway, we got to the ashram, got cleaned up, got fed, and it was time to go to Shri Mataji's public program on I don't know if it was the northern side of Paris but and she
What year is this? What year is this now? 90.
this is 1993, the summer.
Yeah. Yes, still in the same year. Sorry, it seemed like a lot had happened.
After Puja, and Shri Mataji was going to address the public, the French, and maybe there were some internationals, there were some yogis going along, of course, to help out, and an Ayatollah. I don't think it was the big Ayatollah in Tehran at the time, but it was an Ayatollah,
Who was there in Paris from Iran
Paris,
at the program? At the program.
Special guest.
Wow.
Yeah. So, right, I thought, yeah, I'm going to go to that, but I've got to go to the bank. I've got to go into the centre of Paris to the bank to get some money from. I've got to cash in some savings I had in the UK, and I couldn't do it in a provincial bank. I had to go into the city. I said to the yogi, I said, look, the French yogi had kindly taken this on board. I sort of, I said to the American yogi, I said, thanks very much for your help. I've got to go out on my own now. I've got to go and get some money. So he dropped me off at a bank in the city centre, and then left me there. I said, don't worry, I'll get to the public programme, which was later in the day. Don't worry, I'll get there myself. He said, are you sure? Are you sure? I said, yeah, no problem. Because I was still, invincible,
Young and invincible.
Yeah, invincible. So
You were still traveling on all those vibrations from the Puja and Cabella, and you feel like anything can happen and work out.
I didn't have a map of Paris, but the yogi had given me the address, and he pointed at the general direction in which I'd got to go. So I lined up my navigation point with the Eiffel Tower. I knew I had to walk past the Eiffel Tower and beyond, but I had no idea how long it would take me, and it took me 4 hours to get there walking. And I did have a bit of money. I had a bit of croissant, a bit of pain au chocolat, bottle of water. But what was really funny, for some bizarre reason, I went in the wrong direction of the Eiffel Tower for about an hour. And then I sort of twigged it, and I'm going, hello, this ain't the right direction. I can't see the tower anymore. I must be going in the wrong direction. And I was. So I'd lost an hour going in the wrong direction. So in total, it took me 4 hours to get there. I had this appalling cramp in my left knee, really bad, and it was almost crippling, but I kept going. I had to lie down by the banks of the River Seine near Notre Dame to recover. And it was a hot day, a lot of very nicely dressed Parisians, and there's this scaggy, young Englishman in his holy curtain pajamas struggling on, and I had 2 holes on the pajamas on the left knee. There was 2 holes in the
So you're wearing like Indian kurta pajamas.
I had a fleece on. I had a red fleece with a hoodie, but I had my Conkers, my multicolored top-knit shoes, and I had my same old white pajamas, but they had holes in the left knee. And I had this appalling cramp. I mean, it was quite debilitating. There's probably another reason why it took me 4 hours to get to the venue. Anyway, I finally got to the venue 4 hours later of walking. I rested up as best I could for, half an hour by Notre Dame and all that. And then I found the venue, which was, from memory, it was quite a modern building. It was kind of on the suburbs of the city. Like a conference hall, conference centre, modern, a concrete structure, new roundabout, new road infrastructure. And I got there in time, what a good time, and I lay down and slept on the roundabout, on the grass of the roundabout. I was so tired.
Can't do that anymore.
Just to recover. And luckily I didn't get moved on by the gendarmerie police. Anyway, the venue opened up, and yogis and the public started to arrive, and the special guests, the Ayatollah and Shri Mataji, and I'm on the back row. Everyone's all smartly turned out. This is Paris, I'm in my scraggy old clothes, and I'm on the back row, and I'm trying to keep myself together, and I'm listening to the public program, and then Shri Mataji speaks very graciously of the Ayatollah and the Shiite Muslims and etc. And she gives the self-realization, which the affirmations, and then a lot of people get their realization, Shri Mataji's pleased, and then it all ends. Then the yogi, the French yogi, lovely chap, gosh, Christian, I don't know his surname. He took me back, I think, with maybe with the American gentleman yogi to the ashram. I think we stayed overnight, and I think shortly after, like matter of days or maybe the next day, was the Shri Mahakali Puja to Shri Mataji in Paris for the Sahaja yogis. And so I'm in there, the puja's kind of starting, there's yogis all around, I'm in the foyer of the venue.
So you're still in the same clothes. You
Yes,
didn't have a change of
yeah.
clothes.
I hadn't got it together to buy a nice suit in Paris, or
Unbelievable.
you know, and I didn't really care for all that, to be
Yes.
honest.
You were-
Yeah. You were kind of an aesthetic seeker,
Yes.
weren't you? You weren't involved in material
And I
things.
wasn't bothered with all that. I mean, I was conscious that I was looking a bit of a mess, but that wasn't enough to stop me attending, you know, the event, the public program thing. So we're in the kind of foyer of the venue, and I think we're queuing up for a bit of food or something, registering for the puja. I mean, and there's nothing like this in Sahaja. There's nothing such thing as a roll list of people who practice Sahaja. If for anyone who's watching, it doesn't exist, because it's impossible. There'd be so many realized souls and yogis meditating, and it's too organized. You know, we might.
But you're just going up and putting your, you're
Yeah.
just going up and putting your name down, and
That's
you
it.
know.
So, and I'm in the queue, and I got introduced to Pasquale, and he said, "All right, how you doing?" In his lovely, delightful South East London accent, and he's a very matter of fact, jovial, very buoyant character. And I met him for the first time. He said, "All right, how you doing?" I said, "Yeah, I've been doing this. I've come for the Puja." He said, "Oh, right, no problem." And I'm kind of so refreshing, you know. And then we go in and we go in and we do the Puja. And during the Puja talk, it's the 1993 Shri Mahakali Puja talk on Sahaja. You can watch it, and you can also watch the public program with the Ayatollah as well.
We'll put the links with the video.
Yeah,
so
and
people can-
I'm sitting there, and Shri Mataji, first of all, I think she makes maybe certainly in the I think in the public program she made a reference to clothes with holes in, that today's fashion wearing ripped clothes, you know,
It's back again.
is not good. And then, but in the Puja talk, I think she makes a reference to, yeah, if you don't. Like, you'll have to excuse me, anyone watching, when I get the wording right, of course, but it was something like along the lines like, you got to look after yourself, you know, you've got to look after the body, which is the temple, you know, because you've got to reflect in your heart as the spirit
You've got to respect it. Yeah.
resides in it, yeah, and that's your apparatus for going through life, and you got to look after yourself, you know. Of course, I wasn't, but and she said, yeah. If you wear clothes with holes in, you get cramps. And it was straight away, you know, I realised straight away.
He's talking to you.
She, you know, arguably made a reference to my 4 hours of utter pain walking through.
But I mean, that was the incredible thing.
Yeah,
That you would be there, your small self, in amongst, you know, hundreds of other people. And if it was needed, Shri Mataji would directly say something that referred to your experience or what was happening at the time. And that was quite incredible to be in that huge room with all those people and feel like Mother's speaking to me, you know, and you knew she was speaking to you, but other people didn't, or maybe they did if you were there with your holy trousers.
But it was what it was a very I mean, the amazing thing about the Supreme Being, you know, and I like that term, the Supreme Being, and I get it off the Time Bandits, Terry Gillingham's Time Bandits. It's a brilliant film. It's and it's just like Sahaja, really. But the Supreme Being is this. It's omnipresent. It's with you all the time. You know, you never forget that. You know.
Yes.
When even in your direst needs of life and you're down on your knees, the divine is there next to you, and all
And
you
that,
do is reach out, or
Pray.
open up,
Ask.
engage,
Yeah.
be comforted, the comforter. It sounds very biblical and Christian what I'm saying, but it's true.
It is.
but it was like that. And that was the thing, was that Shri Mataji could make a reference, like you'd be in her presence, with other people, and suddenly she would say something to you that would reference something in your past.
Yeah.
You'd never said to her, you'd never talked about, and she would make small, short comments
Okay.
that opened up a whole thing for you. And I mean, for me in those early years, that was like, oh wow, mother knows, she knows everything that happened to me. I didn't have to say anything. And she would say it for a reason. She would say it in a way of compassion, or in your case, smarten up a bit, but she would say it in a nice way, that this is important, that you do. Yes, you're an ascetic kind of non-materialistic person, but still it's important that you show respect to yourself, with your clothes and things. And as you said just now, that's how you knew that mother was coming, she was divine, she was omnipresent, she knew everything. And it was incredible to actually experience that if she would say something, especially in the early years. And that applies to now, just like you said, that applies to now. Even though she's physically not there, the divine is all around us. And one yogi in the early years described it as it's just pouring. The vibrations can just pour into you, but it's like you have a bucket on top of your head. But if your bucket's upside down, it doesn't go in. But if you turn the bucket up and you're there, bless me, I'm here, it just pours in. And it's just like you say, we just, I say that to people. When you have a problem or something, you just sit for meditation and ask in your heart. And you may not get the answer straight away. It may take a few days or something. Sometimes you have to be patient, because it's a bigger thing than we realize. But then you'll be standing, washing the dishes, and suddenly, bing, oh, that's what I should do, or that's the answer. And that is when we open ourselves to the divine being. The divine is there. I mean, mother said that so many times, the divine is just endless love. It's just unconditional love, there to help you, my children, to grow and evolve. Yeah, sorry, your lovely thing.
Reminds me, if I may, of what my father, Papa, used to say. He says about God as the all-pervading, Shri Mataji, and this is what she has allowed us to experience, isn't it? The all-pervading, all-permeating power of God and love, which is omnipresent, omniscient, and just all the time there. We just have to tap in, as you said.
Yes, and it's not just the experience of feeling, when we sit to meditate and you feel the vibrations, you feel the energy start flowing through you and clearing you and taking you to that higher, peaceful, thoughtless state. It's not just that.
No.
It's that the divine is in every moment of your day,
Yeah.
There's so many little things, but I won't digress.
Yes.
Continue, please.
Yeah, so I think Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd. It's all in there.
Yeah.
23, I think in Shri I understand she commented that describes God Almighty, your Father,
The Lord is my shepherd. Yeah.
and it's a good one. When you're in trouble,
She said that. Yeah.
shepherd.
She said that to us. She said that. I remember in those early years, she said, remember the Lord's my prayer. Remember that, because it's there to comfort you, for you to remind yourself that the divine is there.
Yeah.
So there you are.
Even a boxer, the Irish boxer, God, what's his name? The very successful Irish boxer. I don't think I think he got defeated fairly recently. Heavyweight boxer. He takes "My Lord is my shepherd" before he goes into a fight, and I'm thinking that's why he's so successful, because he takes it, he humbles down, even though he's a world champ boxer.
Humble. Yeah.
He's done it. I've forgotten his name. It'll come to me later. My son will remind me. But anyway, so we get back, and then he takes me back to my truck, and then I'm on my own. Then I think with my truck, and I managed to get it. A farmer. He gives me a tow. I bump start the truck. I get round Paris, and then I blooming well stall it again. Well, it wasn't me the first time, but I stall it again in a French village on the way out to Brittany, and then I flagged down an English traveller. He had an old truck as well. I think it might have been a Bedford, an old army one. And I said, look, mate, I've broken down. Can you give me a tow? And while I've engaging with him, I'm telling about I've discovered Sahaja self-realization, man. This is what you got to do, you know. And I think he was taking it on board. But the important thing, he was towing me to the garage in the village. And then at the end of the tow, we take off the tow rope, and he goes, I'm saying, yeah, man, you got to try out this meditation. He goes, yeah, yeah. I said, thanks very much for your help. He said, yeah, have you got any dope? I said, no, I've given that up. I said, you don't need dope. You don't need to smoke anymore.
To make you feel good.
And then he had his family with him, and he was a little bit put out. I didn't have any dope to give him. I think I gave him a bit of some francs to, you know, for his trouble, and then he went off on his traveling journey wherever he was going, and I got my truck fixed and paid for, and I paid for it by the mechanic, and then I was on to the farm, on to Brittany, where I parked it up. Then I parked it up, and I'm thinking, right, I've got to get to Roscoff now, which was quite some distance further.
Where's that?
Well, the farm was near Louagar, near Gangon, Belle-Île-en-Terre, which is kind of a little bit central Brittany, but a bit out to the west, inland. And then Roscoff ferry was on the north coast of Brittany, and it was the 6-hour Brittany Ferry's journey back to Millbrook Docks, Plymouth, which I'd come into the continent on. Now I had to get from my farm to the port. So I was hitching, and it was a hot summer's day, and I had, and I regret it now, I had a bit of a hippie new age South American jumper on. But part of me, even then, after meeting the Paris yogis and that, I'm thinking, something coming to my head, maybe Shankar, you should start smartening up a bit now. You know, maybe you should sort of, yeah. And after what Mother said, maybe you should go get a new set of clothes. Anyway, it's getting a bit hot. I was walking down the byways and highways of Brittany to get back to get to Roscoff, and it's getting hot. So I thought, bugger it. I took my jumper off. It was a nice jumper, nice colour, and I chucked it over the hedge into a field. I felt liberated, you know. I was casting off my old new age apparel, and I was on the way to, you know, Savile Row in London. No, not quite. Anyway, but I regret it now, because you can't buy wool anymore.
Yeah.
I went to Marks the other day. It's It's crazy. So you got to keep on with the natural, which is what Mother wanted you to do, to get natural fibers, the natural things, the handicraft.
But it was a good thing to do, because she said to us, you know, when you come in, you have to get rid of your old stuff, especially your clothes, because it carries all your old vibrations, and you need new stuff. So it was a good decision, even though it was wool.
And of course,
Fantastic.
as you kind of later on, I started to get back into mainstream UK life. Nobody's going to take any notice of you if you're dressed like a hippie, new age traveler. Yeah, nobody's going to take you seriously. Nobody's going to listen to you about the meditation. They'll just dismiss you as some nutter, you know. And so there is a reason for that. It's hard to swallow when you're a seeker, but you eventually. Sahaja Yoga is very gentle. I mean, I don't know about others' experience, but for me, it's been very gentle. You get eased into it.
It's so true what you're saying, because when I got my realization in India, and I walked into this tent in this bungalow, and it was filled with middle-aged businessmen like my dad.
Yeah.
Whereas all the false gurus were being followed by hippies, by young people who were traveling everywhere. And I said to myself, there's people like my dad here, so who I respected, he was a sensible, dharmic man. I thought, this must be something different. So that is exactly what you're saying,
Yes,
And
indeed.
you're right. And my understanding, although it's Her Majesty, I mean, she has made references. She, and it's terrible. The English is terrible. It doesn't have the right vocabulary. And my English isn't fantastic, although I did teach English. She was pitching it. The divine was pitching it at the middle classes.
Yes, she has
Because
actually clearly said it in one of her pitch
unfortunately,
talks.
the
Yeah.
poor people of the world, they're too busy trying to earn money
Yeah.
to survive.
Yeah, it's not that she didn't want
No,
she
not
welcomed everybody, but she said that because first you have to settle that in order for you have to satisfy your shelter and your food and things before you can look at spiritual evolution. And that's just how it is, that. And so it's not so much that she was pitching it to the middle class, but they were the ones who were able to receive it because the rich are too rich and the poor are too poor, but the middle class are in the middle. They're balanced, they've got enough, not too much. So yes.
And it just, you're right. And it just, pitch isn't the right word. It's just that, and it would appear at that time that the majority of the seekers were from middle class backgrounds, whether it was the UK, America, Europe, or even India. They were from good households. They were from middle class households. And it may be that the seekers that her children, deliberately took their lives, their rebirth.
They had that blessing. They had that blessing because they needed to be in a place that they could receive their realization. Yeah. But it is open to it's for everybody. Mother would accept anybody who had the desire.
In fact, I've got a little story about that, about Kurukshetra on an India tour, but I'm trying to get there quite quickly. I'm trying to get out of France.
So you're back in England. Yeah, I'm waiting to hear these dreams, I must say.
So anyway, I did get a lift back to Roscoff. I got back to Plymouth on the ferry because the truck was in Brittany, and that was pretty much the end of the truck, bar a return and then its final demise. But that's we could probably skirt.
It did a good job. It did a good job. Got you there and back. And so so from when you left England to when you finally came back, that was like a couple of months.
So that would, I mean, it's so basically
we're in August now.
Late winter 1993 into late summer 1993.
Into August.
Yeah. No, 93, because then I went to Ealing and I did but plastering for Fergie, labouring for Fergie, Derek Ferguson, who was the plasterer.
So when you went to Ealing, so this is at this point in time, this Shri Mataji is staying in this house in Ealing with her husband. It was a beautiful, with her CP, it was a beautiful old kind of Victorian corner house. So it had a decent garden around it. And there was doing, as always, when whatever house Shri Mataji moved into, there was work going on it, improvements, all kinds of things. And we should just say that the subtle significance of the yogis coming to work on these houses was a collective experience. It was a way for yogis to come and be under the umbrella, I would say, of the divines. You were in the house where Shri Mataji was living. Even if you didn't see her a lot, you could feel her presence there. So just being in her house, working on things was like a puja in itself. Like it was a vibrational experience clearing through you. And so it was a great privilege to be in that position, to be able to go. And sometimes people, I know quite a few people, even my daughter went to help make curtains in Ealing, and I only visited once or twice, but you went into the house There was something very different vibrationally about being in a house where Shri Mataji was living, you know, and it's like you come from the outside and you walk into this bubble. And I remember describing once before that it felt to me like coming into the womb. And it gets a bit distracted when there's lots of other yogis there doing their things. But if you go into the silence, you can really feel it's a different kind of vibration.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
At that particular time, mother wasn't living there. It was a building site, and it was pretty full on. There was Mahakali and Joseph, bricklayers, come over from Italy. Although Joseph isn't Italian, I think he's Czech Republic. There was Chris Marlowe. There was Pat doing the plumbing. Pat Anslow. There was John Watkinson on these ornate plasterwork. Pass came in, did the decorations.
So they were like moving between the Cabella house, the castle, and the Ealing house to get the Ealing house ready for mother to live in.
Yeah, I think pretty much the Golden Builders had moved over to Ealing for a period
At this point.
I remember Her Majesty visiting when I was there, and it was a building site. And she came with CP, and she came into the entrance hall and she said, "Yes, very good, very good. But you've got to work with more rhythm." She said, "You've got to work with more rhythm," and it kind of like reminded me of Shiva's drum and the drum beat, and England being the heart of the universe, the New Jerusalem. I'm going off on a tangent, but that's what I felt at the time. She did came and visit a couple of times when I was late. I was a labourer, and Shivaji and Max were on the pointing on the brickwork, and Matthew Cooper was on carpentry doing the roof structure on the extensions at the back, and I was helping Fergie out with his with the plastering, and
you wonder because I mean Shri Mataji, so CP, they could have bought a completely already renovated house, but
yeah.
she would consistently buy these derelicts or build, because, and she said that to us also, that if you go into, for us, if we buy a house that needs work doing, we then put vibrations into it as you're working on it. So it's good to understand that's why this is happening, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was you'll have to forgive me, those who are listening. There were many other yogis that helped. I've just named a few, but yeah, it was a wreck, that house. I don't know, it might have been squatted in before, but she bought it up, and it was a dump. But she got the yogis onto it, and her divine attention and the yogis' enlightened attention and the way we worked. When you become a realized soul, you start to create these beautiful things. Although I was just knocking up bags of plaster, but you do. I do have a little vision, actually. I'll talk about a little later, where you do make these beautiful things, and the things that you make have got resonance, they've got vibrations, and they've got longevity, and they are, you enlighten matter, you give life to matter.
That's it. You got it there. You put the vibrations into the matter. Yeah.
For the divine. It's like these great Leonardo da Vinci's paintings, or Michelangelo's, or Blake's poetry and artwork. There's some these great realized souls, and their work has got longevity and vibration, and that's why they're so popular. The Mona Lisa, for example, but. Yeah. That's another thing that I'm sure other realizations.
It's like the art we were talking about a little earlier, the art that you are doing now, isn't it, Felicity? It comes from within. It's somehow it's just beautiful.
Inspiration, yeah. And also, Shankar Ji, the friendships that you make with the yogis. And I think Mother even said that by working on these houses, she was building collectivity, you know, that we were all coming together to help do something beautiful. And later on, when we was hosting pujas, you know, we experienced this in Kanachahari, you know, building and creating there. There's incredible sense of vibrations and of energy, and taking you to this next level where you're all working together, you know, and everybody remembers. It's a this feeling of collectivity. It's an experience that it goes beyond words.
It really does.
It's the collective is your spiritual family. And you know, in that sense, I know Shmaji's mentioned it, that it's your real family, the yogis, the realized souls, but because you all share that common connection, that yoga with your creator, you know, so that collectivity of spiritual beings is very precious. You know, you're going back into the fold. You know, the good shepherd has collected the strays of the flock, and you're all moving together in one direction. And I just wanted to move on quickly to my first India tour. I've only been on two, although I have been to India many, many times. My first India tour, 1993, and
Gosh, you had an intense year, didn't you? A lot happened.
Yeah. Nizamuddin, Delhi, because the India tour, which is a tour for people who practice Sahaja yoga that Shmaji organised, and
the Western
and the
yogis,
international collective,
especially.
but basically it's hosted by the Indian collective.
Yes.
And by God, if you ever want to get anything organised in India, it's the place to do it, because I don't know how they do it, but they just pull everything together, and they're such
So
wonderful.
when you went on that tour, how many people? Because when my first tour, we had 80 Westerners, mostly Australians and English. So that my first tour was in 82. So now we're in 93, and I noticed over the years how the tour changed. But how many do you think were on your tour?
Do you know, I honestly can't remember, but we had a fleet of buses, local buses that Shmaji had hired.
So a couple of hundred. I think we were pushing up to like 300. So as you say, 300 Westerners to move around India. And it wasn't so modernized in those days either. The buses were very rickety. And then everybody would be staying usually we stayed in like they had government bungalows, and I remember when we went to Vetuna, there was like this dam, and so it's like I don't know what you'd call it, what we would have. It's not a youth hostel, it's like a hostel place, but somehow open, you know.
In India they call guest house, and
Guest house, yes.
Different government organizations have their own guest houses in these remote areas, because those were the days when the hotels weren't really prevalent. Like now we can have hotels, Airbnbs and such like.
Right.
Those days we had few
these guest houses.
Yeah.
And actually I remember that often it was that there were Indian yogis who were in the government or the council, you know, who gave access and made this possible. But we didn't, when we went on tour, I don't remember, certainly the first tour we didn't, but you would all be like crammed into a room with mattresses, you know. It was very kind of basic travel, but there was a point to that, you know. The mother was trying to make us let go of our attachment to material things, to material, so that in India it gave you a chance to really sort of be imbibed and absorb this sense of spirituality. And for that we had to, you know, let go of our conditionings of having soft bed and sheets and meals on the times that you're used to, you know, and etc. etc. But anyway, detachment. Learning detachment. Yes. A little bit of background for the tour. Continue. Sorry.
So and just to add in there that India, returning to India as a realized soul with Kundalini awakened, my sympathetic nervous system awakened to forces of negativity, but also and divine forces of goodness and nourishment, and your attention becomes enlightened, and you look at something with your enlightened attention, and it's called Jnana Marg. I mean, by no means has one achieved that state now, but you get glimpses of, and when you put your attention that's enlightened on something, whether it's matter or a place or somebody, you can pretty much figure out what it's all about. It's quite a clever Jnana Marg, it's called, a Tattva. It's a yogic state.
So it's like a perception of depth that when you put your attention on, you can go into the depth of that, maybe that vibration of that person or of that place. And it's not just feeling hot and cold or catches or tinglings. It's having a deeper sense of what this place is about, or where that person is coming from, which explains why I hadn't thought of it like this, but it explains why when you could be working on someone, so you're working on their chakras, you're feeling their catches, and then you would suddenly get this idea to, they're catching a lot on right heart, and you would just sort of somehow the Kundalini or mother would inspire you to ask them a question. Like, have you difficulties with your father's relationship? Or, I mean, you can't imagine, it would just pop into your head the right thing to say. And then you would ask that, and that catch would clear. That person would go, yes, 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 because your enlightened attention had gone onto that situation or that chakra or whatever, and the vibration was then directed there to work it out. So it's very interesting what you're saying, and it's very nice to hear you describe what it felt like, because you had that unique experience of being in India before realization, like I did, and then being in India after realization.
Yeah, India was very different after realization. Before realization, I was really taken in with it all, the colors, the sights, the smells, the caste system, the appearance, the desi, the beals, the tribes, the clans. I was very taken in with it. And India was a complete culture change. You go back there as a realized soul, you start to see it for what it is. And it's actually, I mean, whether Muslims, Hindus, Parsis, Jains, they'll have to forgive me. It's not as completely spiritual as what you think it was when you first went there. When you go as a realized soul with your enlightened attention, you can see where human beings have taken the divine and changed it to what they want to suit their needs.
You've gone beneath the glossy surface, and you see the problems that the country has as well. You can see all sides, the depths and the spirituality, but you also see the things that they're struggling with.
Yeah, you do. That's a beautiful country, beautiful people, but you do see that. And so anyway, it was obviously fantastic to go back as a realized soul, because on that India tour, Shri Mataji organised it, that you went to a particular place of particular spiritual importance back through the centuries and the millennia, back to places where Sri Rama would have walked, Sri Krishna would have walked, Sri Mahavira would have walked, Raja Janaka would have walked, and even later, maybe even Christ, when Christ went to India, where he would have walked, and where God realized saints and souls would have walked. She takes you to these places.
Because in Maharashtra, there are really many holy places, and many saints, and like Krishna and Ram, and were born there, took their birth there. So there's a lot of holy places dedicated to these divine incarnations. And Shri Mataji, I know, had specifically wanted the yogis to go to these places because they're places of pilgrimage for ordinary people in India, and to vibrate and clear the vibrations.
Yeah. I went to, I'm digressing massively. I went to Shirdi, not on an India tour, because I just very quickly on that one. I went to Shirdi, Maharashtra, to the
Shirdi Sainath of Shirdi's place.
Yeah, to Shirdi Sainath, Sai Baba Sainath, the real one, the proper one. And I went there with some yogis from Maharashtra. I was staying at their farm for a while, a couple of weeks. And I got in the queue to go and do namaskar to Shri Sainath's Mahasamadhi site and pay my respects.
So Samadhi is where his spirit, his body died, and this is the place where his spirit went up to join the divine. So, and this is a place they've created a shrine.
Yes.
Huge significance to Muslims, for Muslims and Hindus
Very much
in
so.
India, huge. It's a lot of Shri Sai Nath of Shirdi devotees.
So this is, let's say Shri
Yeah.
Mataji said that Sainath was the last of the 10 Adi gurus that came on this earth, and he came, Muhammad thought he would be the last, but then there was so much fighting amongst the Muslims and the Hindus and everything that Sai Baba came to try to unite the Hindus and the Muslims together, and that was very important.
I've just got a book here actually that I'm reading.
What? Wait, I have to.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the original book.
Yeah.
So this is your original book, but look,
Yeah. Well,
Uh-huh.
hey,
Lewis has made this book, and
Wow.
he's taken words and photos from the book that you are showing,
yeah.
and he has, this is like Sai Baba enlightened with the knowledge of Saj Yoga, and he has put beautiful quotes of Shri Mataji, photos of Shri Mataji, and it's really a beautifully done book. And I think if you are interested to read about Sai Baba and see where are all the photos gone? Yeah, there are some really lovely, especially in the beginning, photos. And whoops, yeah, maybe we can put this link. We can put this link in. That's so sweet. I so wanted to
Yes.
share. This is, I read it and it's just beautifully done. And you learn about Sai Baba through Mother's words, and he makes the parallel connections. It's very lovely.
Would you please email the link for the book, please?
Yes, then we can put it with the, yeah. Sri
Right.
Sainath of Shirdi in the light of Saj Yoga.
Excellent. Thanks for sharing. Beautiful to see that, and yes.
Yeah. She must have, because I remember also going there on the tour. I don't know if it was like some places were standard stops each tour that, you know, the tour would go around. And I do remember going to that town, and it felt really special, you know, to be going to where Sai Baba had lived and was so respected and revered, and a modern saint, you know, a modern saint. Because
Very
he only died in 1919. Yeah. So it's so how incredible to have actual photos, and people that had, devotees had done paintings of him.
read about the so-called miracles by Shri
Yeah,
Mataji. We live it, but
yeah.
even reading about those times when he was dealing with his devotees, isn't it, Shankar Ji? I mean, the vibrations are like amazing. Amazing.
And in the book, Lewis makes reference to the miracles, and then after he died, the devotees wrote down their experiences. So, you know, there's firsthand knowledge about and how he had power over the elements. And Mother said that as a guru, you have power over the elements. And she said that for us, that we also have these powers, but we have to develop them and believe in them and be pure enough that they work through us. But oh, that's so sweet that you brought that up. Yeah, so what a lovely experience to be there in Shirdi, where he was, and with all the yogis on tour. And did Shri Mataji do a public program there that year?
No, in that instance, I wasn't on a tour. I was on a little mission of my own. I ended up in Maharashtra, and I ended up going to Shirdi. And what I was going to explain very briefly is when I was lining up to do namaskar really to the place, to his shrine. There were a lot of priests, lot of Brahmin priests, dishing out coconuts and putting the kumkum on the head and receiving rupees and flowers and prasad from the devotees of Shri Mataji.
Did you have to pay them to offer these
Well,
things?
I can't remember, but I didn't
think
feel
you have
any.
to buy prasad and stuff, isn't it? So
I didn't feel any vibrations at all when I was at that point. When I was queuing up, so I thought, right, I'm just going to stand to one side, just squeeze over to the wall, let the pilgrims do their thing and make their offerings and receive their blessings from the Brahmins. I can't feel any vibrations here. I'll just come to the side. So what I did was I took the Sahaj mantra to Shri Nath of Shirdi, and
Adiguru, Adiguru.
Sahaja. I took that mantra, and as soon as I took that mantra, I just felt this gush of vibrations and ambrosia just coming down over me, and I felt completely elevated because, you know, I'd said a living mantra to the right appropriate living mantra to this previous incarnation of the divine, and the divine responded by showering me with this ambrosia, and I floated out of there. Floated. I didn't let the Brahmins put a tilak on me or anything, but that's just to show. So before without the vibrational awareness and with the vibrational awareness, India's different. But that's I just quickly get back to this India tour, 1993. Now we're in the Bharat Scout camp in Delhi, and we're very close across the road from the tomb, the shrine of Nizamuddin. Now I don't know his full name.
Hazrat Nizamuddin, it's called.
So tell us who Nizamuddin is.
The Sufi saint, a very, very famous Sufi saint, and the pilgrims, again, lots of Muslims, but even Hindus and people from other religious.
Transcending religious boundaries. And Shri Mataji spoke very highly of the Sufis. So do you think this is the place, because there are photographs of showing her going to visit and meeting not the Sufis who were in charge there.
A chadar as well there.
Pardon?
A chadar, which is like an equivalent for us to understand would be the altar cloth, but in the Islamic practice, you offer a chadar which covers the whole shrine as such.
So it's a cloth,
It's an ornate cloth that you offer. So yes. If we find the video of that link of Shri Mataji visiting the Hazrat Nizamuddin shrine tomb, we will put it in the links with.
Good.
So I just Shri mentioned him, a great Sufi saint, and so I decided to sneak away from the collective and slip over the road to his shrine. So what I did was I took myself off, and I got, as you approach the shrine, as the entrance passageway kind of narrows, either side of you've got people selling various things that you would buy, flowers or prasad,
religious trinkets.
That you that you would offer, and the cloth that you mentioned, you know, those pilgrims to his shrine, whether Hindus or Muslims, you would buy something and then go and offer it at the shrine. And as you enter it through that, you get through that, and you come out into this courtyard, and there was another great saint buried there as well. You got to take your shoes off. And so on the side, they got people minding your shoes. So there'd be rows of shoes that the pilgrims had taken off to go into the shrine.
So no one steals your shoes.
Well, of course, being a bit of still a bit of a renegade, rebel, kind of against the grain person, not really fully conformist then. I thought, no, I'm not going to leave my shoes, pay, you know, half a paisa for my shoes to be looked after. I'm going to be clever. I'm going to go and put my shoes over there to one side, which I did, ignoring the shoe minder. And because I went in, and then because you're white, you get approached by, but not only if you're white, any pilgrim, you get approached by the keepers of the shrine, that have got a clipboard. They want to collect a donation for the upkeep, maintenance of the shrine. Of course, you know, you've got to maintain the structure, and I kind of like avoided them very quickly, and I went in to the structure. And what you do is you walk around his tomb, you circumnavigate his tomb as the pilgrims were doing, and I just got in line, and I got to his feet of his tomb, and I did my namaskar like all the other pilgrims, and then they went out the exit or out the way we came in. But I thought, no, I'm gonna just hang back here. So I sat down in the corner away from the circular throng of pilgrims, and I had a shawl on to keep. I thought, I'll keep a low profile. I put it over my head, and I didn't have my hands sticking out of my shawl. I had them under my shawl. No one could tell I was a Westerner. And what I did, I sat there and I meditated in the shrine, and I prayed to Nizamuddin, Shri Nizamuddin, please give me your blessings, because I've come because Shri Mataji's advised that we come, and I've come, and I've come to pay respects to you. Please bless me. Lovely, quiet meditation all to myself. There's all the hustle and bustle and the argy-bargy as they're going around his grave, and
shrine.
the shrine, and then I make my exit, and of course I'm looking for my shoes, and they're gone. So I'm thinking, oh no. So I've worked my way back out of the complex, out onto the street. Now, this is this part of, I don't know if it's changed now, but there was a lot of Muslim butchers there trading, and they had buffalo heads hung up on hooks, and huge. They hadn't slaughtered them with, and jointed up cows. I mean, I don't think they do, but it was a pretty fly infested, sort of gutsy, gory, bloody place. Real butchers, I mean, your women folk probably wouldn't go there. There'd be the men that go and buy the meat in India. They go off on their scooters and their push bikes, and they go into the butcher area of a city or a town, into where the butchers are, and buy the meat, because the men that like the meat generally that is. Whether I don't know if that's the same for Muslims, but the men.
There is a big population in India that are vegetarians as well. So
yes, there is.
But
of course, we're in Delhi, which is a Muslim. Essentially, it's a Muslim city, or its origins, and the Mughals and all that. Delhi Sultanate, and it's fair play. They're doing their trade, but the street was pretty filthy. I mean, and even for me that had been to India seeking, roughing it a bit and living on the side of the road, I sort of squirmed a bit, and I thought, how am I going to get down this street back to the Saj Yogis at the scout camp with no shoes? I've got to go.
Right.
This blood and foul water and mud and flies. I thought, oh no, I'm really in trouble. Then I plucked up courage, and I stepped out onto the street, and I floated all over this awful surface of the road, all the blood and guts and all that. I floated over it. I mean, I didn't hover. Nobody kind of like dropped everything they were doing and going, God, look at that guy hovering. But I as I walked, it was like walking on lily pads over a pond. I felt so light. And what it was, so I floated along for like, 10, 15, maybe 20 meters. And then I came to a stop right in front of a guy that's selling sandals, chapels, on a little barra. Right in front, smack. I didn't get a speck of dirt on my feet. And what it was Shri Hazrat Nizamuddin. He'd elevated me. His blessings, he'd elevated me, to that safe point where it was clean. Because 12 rupees, I bought myself some flip-flops. I was back to near
chapels, flip-flops,
chapels. And I was back with the yogis. I had a great time. I loved it,
Just to put it in,
You've just frozen. Oh, there you are, back again.
So Hazrat Nizamuddin Aulia is the Dargah, the shrine you went to.
Yeah.
He was a Sufi saint who was born in Badaun. It's a small place, a village in Uttar Pradesh in India in 1238. So he's a 13th century Sufi saint, and he took his samadhi on the 3rd of April in 1325 at the age of 87 years, which in those days was quite an age, and obviously the miracle that you experienced.
I don't know.
Oh, what a special memory. What a special memory. Could we just pause a minute?
I think it's freezing the frame.